Okay, I just pulled our reishi bags off the shelf to check progress here, and they are definitely fully colonized. And they're actually, some of them are already starting to pin. And I'm going to go ahead and let them pin and let the mushrooms begin to develop right in the bags. But some of the bags have, you can see here, there's some pretty significant pockets of moisture up here around the top of the block. That's pretty common. There's some more there. I'm going to show you guys how to deal with that and how I induce pinning and get the fruit started right in the bags. You can see those little bumps right there are actually mushrooms starting to form. But what I'm going to do is, this one probably has the most moisture in it. So what I'm going to do is take some scissors and I'm just going to cut the corners off of the bags here. These are fully colonized, so we don't have to worry about contamination at this point. And this is going to allow you to basically pour the moisture right off the block and get rid of it. Now, these are already fully colonized and starting to pin, so I'm not worried about the colonization progress. But if you had these really wet pockets before you got full colonization, and you can actually lay these right down flat on your incubation shelves like this, and you can just let them colonize like that. And what will happen is the moisture will roll towards the top of the bag, and that way it won't affect your sawdust and your colonization. Because if you get this kind of moisture pooling before your blocks are fully colonized, that can spell trouble, because that can definitely get you some contamination. So basically just take a good sharp pair of scissors and just cut that corner right off like that. And I'm going to do both sides. And what that's going to do too is that's going to give a little extra fresh air exchange into your bag, and that'll cause these mushrooms to climb. Mushrooms will always grow towards the fresh air. So by clipping these corners off, they're gonna force them to climb vertically up to, when they get about to the level of the filter patch, then I'm gonna cut the top portion of the bag off actually. But for now, I'm just going to pour the moisture off of these, and we'll let them ride like this for a while. So you can see, now that I've clipped these corners off, you can see all that moisture coming out of that bag. And you can kind of, you can massage it out of there too. You're not really going to hurt your block at this point. I mean, you don't want to be really rough with it, but you can kind of work that moisture out of those little pockets off the top of the block. And I just pour it on the table, but usually I'll pour it on some paper towels or an old towel or something. And just let that soak it up. And once you get most of the moisture off your block, then we'll just put it right back on the incubation shelves. So we got all that extra metabolite and moisture off the blocks, got our corners clipped and poured everything out, and I'm just going to let them ride here on the incubation shelves again. You could put them under lights at this point, but it costs money to put them under lights, and it's really not necessary. So I have a little ambient light coming in through this window here, and that'll be enough to encourage these reishi antlers to start climbing up towards the fresh air and climbing up these bags. So we're going to wait till that happens, and we'll come back. It's been about a week since we cut the corners off of our bags here, and our reishi mushrooms are totally exploding. They're getting up to the level of the filter patch now, so it's time to put them in our fruiting tubs. So that's what I'm going to do here now. What I'm going to do is just take a sharp pair of scissors and just carefully trim all the way around the bag and remove the bag basically just above the substrate level all the way around. And then we're going to move them over here into our fruiting tubs, and these are just our large clear storage totes. And basically with these blocks, when you first put them in, I'm going to put 4 in each of these tubs, so they're going to be pretty crowded. And it won't need any additional humidity for quite a while because these blocks are going to be releasing a lot of moisture into the tub. I'm going to have the lid on, And I have 4 holes, 2-inch holes drilled in the tubs. I just have the ones on the ends here filled with polyfill. I'm going to leave these other ones open for a little bit of air exchange. I'm going to have the lids on but not latched. And we'll just see how they do. Basically what you're looking for is you want to see a little condensation on the sides of your tubs. You don't want really heavy like water beading to where it's starting to pool on the bottom of the tub. If you see that, you need a little more air exchange. So you can either pull your polyfill or you can crack the lid a little bit or whatever you have to do. And I just have the regular fluorescents up above our tables here. And I also have a daylight spectrum bulb that I might play with a little bit and give them some of that, see if I can develop some more color. Reishi, like most mushrooms, you can actually manipulate the pigment level in the mushroom by how much light and what kind of light you give them. So usually if you give them lower light levels, they're going to be much paler, and more light, they're going to darken up. So you can kind of manipulate that based on what you're looking for. Just as in our last video, we have a little metabolite and moisture accumulation along the top of the block and the edges of the bag here. So I'm going to go ahead and dump that out. So we're going to cut the top of the bag off below the filter patch, just above the substrate level right about here. And we'll dump the metabolite excess moisture out onto a paper towel, and then I'll move the blocks into the fruiting chambers. All right, so there we go. That's what we're looking for. Not a lot of moisture there, but a little, so we'll get rid of that. And you can see these antlers are already forming. We have tons of growth here, and these are just going to keep elongating now because the high CO2 environment in the tub is going to encourage them to not form conchs but form antlers and grow straight and tall. You do want to be a little careful as you're removing the top of your bag. Try not to damage your mushrooms too much. Some are more sensitive to it than others. Most of the time it's not a big deal. If you nick them a little bit, they're just going to grow right back and regenerate. They're actually pretty hardy. Reishi are very hardy, so if you nick them a little bit, don't sweat it. They're just going to go ahead and regenerate, so not a big deal. But just try and not mangle them too much. That's it, guys. Super simple. All our blocks are in the tubs, and I'm doing this in the evening, so by tomorrow morning I'm expecting to see some condensation on the sides of the tubs here. And like I said, you just want to see light condensation. You don't want to see real heavy droplets, or definitely no water pooling on the bottom of the tub. If you see that, you're too humid. So like I said, crack the lid a little bit, pull some polyfill, just get them a little more fresh air. I don't do any fans unless I absolutely have to, because when you're moving that much air, you can really dry your stuff out if you're not careful. And I find it easier to manage just by using natural airflow. That's just me. And obviously the humidity is somewhat a function of your ambient humidity too. I can see here I'm running at 55%, and we're 72 degrees down here right now in the basement. So yeah, these should grow fine for quite a while. Now eventually these blocks are going to continuously lose moisture as these antlers grow, and these things are really going to extend vertically here. And I always keep a little bottle of distilled water in a spray bottle here. If they start to get too dry and you're not getting enough humidity just off the blocks, obviously just mist a little bit. I find it's better to mist the surface of the tub than it is to mist the mushroom themselves with the reishi. So you know, if I see everything's looking dry and the tub's looking dry, I can just, you know, maybe once a day or so just do a little misting on the inside of the tub, put the lid back on, and that'll keep them nice and moist. So I talked about using light to manipulate the color of your mushrooms, but reishi, especially when you're growing antlers like this, and most other mushrooms too, they'll actually grow towards the light. So you can actually manipulate their growth as well, not just the pigment, but the growth by moving your lights around or the way you position the blocks. And some people have fun with these reishi antlers. They'll get them to grow in like circles or tie themselves in knots or whatever by continuously moving the light. So you can do that too. They're kind of like plants in that regard. So that's something fun you can play with too. Now, these grow pretty slowly. Our temperatures are actually fairly high. This is about as warm as it gets in my basement. And it'll get down to 60 or 62 ambient in the springtime. But we're in the fall here and we're at 72. So these are going to grow pretty quickly for reishi, but reishi are pretty slow to begin with. So eventually they're going to grow up to the height of this lid. And before they start pressing into the lid, what you're going to do is just take another one of these tubs and flip it over and make like a clamshell. So you'll have a tub flipped over on top of a tub, and that'll give them enough room to finish their growth. And we'll let these go. It's going to be probably months before these things are ready to pick. But I'll probably come back at picking time and do another update then. So I'm just going to let them grow just like this until they get close to the surface of the inside surface of the lid. And at that point, like I said, I'll just grab another tub, flip it over, and do a tub on top of a tub. And that'll give them enough room to finish out.